I want to say this really quickly. I don't know if it's going to be quick or not, so let me take that back, right? Um, so I end up getting me. I woke up, right. I was for the last 2 days. I ain't been feeling too good. I went to the doctor. I went to the hospital. Well, I went to the hospital first, and then I went to the doctor's, right. And after all of that, right, come to find out, y'all, I was potassium deficient, and I was iron deficient, and I was B12 deficient, right? I was just deficient in everything, right? It's not funny. But God had a message behind that, right? I was deficient in all my vitamins, right? And so my doctor gave me, she was like, dang, that's crazy. Like all the symptoms that you said you had, especially a lot of them was pointing to the iron, and a lot of it was pointing towards the potassium, right? And it's crazy to me. I just want to say this as well. I got two messages. I don't know if I want to do two different videos or how I want to do this, right? One was through a deacon I met, and one is for the doctor, right? About my doctors. Not for the doctors, but about my doctors. And it's 414 on my kitchen clock. So it let me know I'm right on point, right? And be careful, right? Because there's no flies outside. I'm trying to figure out how every time I go to speak, out of nowhere, like these flies or moths show up, right? It's monitoring spirits. So God, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke any monitoring spirits, right? We cloak our voice, we cloak the word, we cloak the message, right? And for it to get to who we need to get to, and so that people won't be stealing our work, our ideas, and trying to go hurry up and produce it before we can produce it, right? And so angels and ancestors of our most high good, I call you guys in to cloak me in this word right now in the name of Jesus, right? And so, amen. I say amen. I say both. And so, and it's a reason why I do that as well. And we're going to let that spirit breeze on out the door in the name of Jesus. And so, so the last 3 days, I was having like heart palpitations, right? I'm very young, but that don't mean nothing because people are falling down in this season, right? And so you got to pray over yourself. And once I see an issue, sometimes I used to sit on it, but as you get older, you can't sit on those issues anymore, those health issues, right? And so it was a guy I worked with. His sister ended up having a heart attack, and she was only like 31, 32. I want to say that she might have been more on the heftier side, but I don't really feel like that kind of mattered because you can be healthy and still go through it, right? When it's time for you to go home, it's time for you to go home. When it's time for God to call you, it's time for God to keep going because I get distracted and I'll make it longer than what it need to be. So anyways, I went to the hospital, and they the one who ended up finding out that I had these deficiencies, and they treated me for it, right? Then you got to do the follow-up with the doctor, and so I went to the doctor, right? And when I went to the doctor, what blew me, right? And I'm happy that this happened to me, even though it was scary when it was happening. Let's not talk about the fact I've been drinking coffee. That's my business. Anyways, I'm happy it happened, but I'm not happy it happened, right? Because it was very scary, right? Your heart beating out of your chest and all these things going wrong. It just felt like it was a lot going wrong at once, right? And I just prayed about it, and I went on here to do what I was called to do, right? But what's crazy is God will talk to you because God been calling me to go get this little stuff, like to get a physical, to go get like a allergy test and things of that nature. Small things, right, that can be so grand, right? The littlest thing, like your potassium, that is like the electrolytes in the body, right? That keeps you breathing. That keeps a lot of things going, right? And that's one of the most important minerals in the body. One of the most vital minerals in the body is potassium, right? And so that was all wickety wackety, right? And so what blew me is that I went to the hospital, and I prayed before I went inside of the hospital. And God let me come across some people who got the job done. Beautiful people. My nurses was beautiful and everything. You know, it was, and it's hard to find beautiful people and people that's listening to you and hearing you out and working with you, especially when it comes to hospitals and doctors and all that type of stuff, right? And so especially the age range that people are becoming nurses, and it be a mess, right? And so they be on their phone creating TikToks with you on the bed dying, you know, just all kind of crazy stuff. Don't care. ain't cleaning the people up, ain't doing right, just ain't doing right by people, right? And so to be in this age, this life, right, to reincarnate here at this time that I was reincarnating into this time is very scary, right? And so I said, God, when I go, I don't want to come back, Lord. Don't create a portal to you. Don't create no portal to come back here, right? I'm trying to get all what I need to get now. And so it's scary because nobody cares anymore, right? They young, they think they look good. They creating TikToks while you stroking out on the bed and all this weird stuff, right? And the older doctors who actually did care, they're getting bullied by these certain entities. And so they're getting to the point where they don't care anymore neither. Because when I first started to go to my doctor, they was husband and wife, and they was their own private practice. They were very good people, right? They listened. They were not trying to put people on medicines. They just took their time with the people, right? And one day I ended up scheduling me a regular doctor's appointment, and my doctor, he was telling me, I told them that I had went somewhere and that they had drew like 15 tubes of blood, and he like, excuse me? He like, no, don't let them do that. Don't let them do that, right? And so he told me about what he needed to tell me about me, right? You are this and you are that, and this is what's going on with you, and this is the reason why they do it. I did it. And I said, well, I know that now, but you shouldn't have kept that a secret from me if you've seen that, right? And so that means that a lot of these people and these doctors are doing things and selling your DNA to higher entities for science research and all this stuff, right? And so he cared at first, right? Him and his wife cared at first. And when I went back this time and I said that to him, he was like, basically they got bought out and they was forced into this bigger entity, right? And so now, instead of them keeping like the caring and kind nature, they don't care anymore because they're getting bullied and being forced into these higher entities and higher organizations within the medical field, right? Where once they was a private practice, they've been bought out, and if they wouldn't have did that, they would have just lost everything, basically, he told me, without telling me too much. And so they're bullying the doctors, they're bullying the nurses, they're bullying private practices to go into their field, right? And so with that being said, they don't care anymore. They're starting not to care about the human race, right? They don't care about your health. And so with me saying all that, right, I want to tell people, like, you have to fight for your right? But you also have to take care of yourself, right? We can't wait until it get bad. Some things are uncontrollable, right? Because with the food being the way it is and all this stuff, even if you go organic and all that stuff, when it comes to vitamin deficient and all that type of stuff, that's kind of, you can't just say, well, I could prevent that. No, you can't. Some things is just, you just can't prevent it. I don't care how healthy you is, how much you work out, what is this, what is that, In order to be like that, you have to figure out every mineral in the body, every vitamin in the body, everything, right? And so some things are just inevitable. And so, but what you can do is go out and get your blood work done, and the basics, like the vitamins, or the diabetes, the high blood pressure, anything like that, you can do that, and then you can begin to work on it yourself and see what vitamins and food support that, right? And so, like I said to people, the food nowadays is so messed up that it's hard to be able to correct a lot of things that's wrong with the body, right? And so, I watched this video, and on the video, the guy said, the guy stated, like, how is it that the United States of America, the U.S., right, have all these different, the best this, the best that, the best care, like all these different vitamins and all this access to all these different things, right, when it comes to technology, equipment, and all this stuff, but we are the sickest, illest people, right? Our food is poisonous. And I mean, this ain't where I'm raising red flags up. Everybody knows this, period. Right? I can get in back of a lift and we'll get on that subject, and everybody knows it. And so we have to care for ourselves, right? We have to try to prevent. Like I said, everything is not preventable, but if you know something, right, and you can't, if you know you got diabetes, you can't just keep gouging down sugar, right? If you got high blood pressure, you can't just keep eating everything with sodium in it. And then I'm sick, right? You can't just keep doing that, right? I mean, unless you want to, you can do what you want to do. But I'm just saying, don't play wolf, don't cry wolf, right? And so, like me, I ain't supposed to have coffee, right? Because it's shooting my high. I'm drinking it. Prime example. I just know, right? And it's not nothing in the coffee because I don't have high blood pressure. I don't have diabetes. I don't have none of that stuff. But the caffeine in there, it just help. I don't sleep, right? So I know I ain't going to sleep no time soon. So I can't be like, well, doc, I ain't been sleeping. Of course not, right? I'm just saying, right? I'm just trying to help somebody. And so, we got to get to the point where we caring for ourselves, right? And so now, it's certain things, right, that I don't do anymore. Like I went shopping the other day for, I don't have high blood pressure, but I went shopping the other day for certain seasonings, right? And I spent probably over $100 and something on seasonings by themselves, right? Salt-free. And then I want to learn how to cook with them to get certain tastes that I want, right? And so that's when my experimentation nature come out, right? And so I had to start my video over because we got people calling in off saying. But I even went shopping for, like, instead of going to go get a cupcake, right? Because I be liking them red velvet cupcakes. Ooh, child, the mini ones. Ooh, right? And late night, you go get you a sneak. You sitting down, chilling, watching a movie, go get you a little cupcake, right? It ain't harming nobody. It is, though, right? And so now it's easy. And then, like, a lot of us, we be so busy with work life, home life, family, right? We be wanting to do those things and eat, right? But it's like, by the time you done running around and doing all that stuff, you damn near shaking because you hungry. And it's like, you got to shove yourself with something, right? And so, like, people be like, oh, food prep and all that stuff. That sounds easy, too, right? Until you got to go do it. Stand up here for hours. Now my back hurting, my legs hurting, my joints hurt. Y'all, it's just a lot. And so, like, what I started to do was, I like coconuts. I like apricots. When I was a kid, I used to eat cans and cans and cans of apricots. I was addicted to apricots, right? And so I said, you know what? Instead of going shopping and getting all that junk food, right? And the junk food right in the front of the store. As soon as you walk in, right? I went inside of Myers and the junk was the cakes and all that stuff. As soon as I walked in at Myers, I went inside. You got the vegetables and all that stuff, right? And the fruit. But they also had like cakes piled up right there at the table. As soon as you walk in the bakery and the deli and all that stuff. All these cakes. Y'all, I had to fight to get to the healthy snacks. I had to fight. It was a fight, right? And they was all the way in the back of that section. And I'm like, oh, shoot, right? Anyways, y'all, I went and got me some coconut strips, right? They're very good. That's sweet. Them sweeter than any cake I could ever eat without no sugar in there. I got me some apricot, probiotic apricots. These things work so good. I'm going to go get me some more. I do like prunes, but I don't like prune juice, so I got me some prunes, right? They all got a delightful taste to them, but you got to get you some that, I paid a pretty penny for it, right? Everybody ain't got money like that. Get you one. If you know you can go get it, and I just don't want to hear, can't nobody afford it like you. If you can go afford a sandwich, if you can go afford some Lowry seasoning salt, right? If you can go afford to go get you a little cake to eat on, whatever, just replace it is what I'm saying. I don't want to hear that sympathy stuff, right? Everybody can't afford this. Everybody can't afford that. Well, I ain't even working, right? And so instead of, and I still got to eat, I still got to do these things, right? And instead of me buying the cupcake pack that I like, them Little Debbie's, right? I switched it and got me Little Debbie's. They don't cost much, but it's still the same price as something healthy, right? And so I just went and swapped out, got a whole bunch of healthy stuff instead of getting all the junk that I normally get. You know, I like sunflower seeds instead of getting the ones that you bite open and you. One thing about that food prep too, me and my sister just had this discussion because she's going on a diet and fixing and correcting her stuff. And she food prepped a couple of times and she like the food just don't taste the same, right? Certain things that we like fresh, like chicken wings. You know, you make some fried chicken wings. We don't eat, we fry some chicken. We don't go back and eat the chicken and put it in the microwave. We go back and put ours like in the air fryer, drain all that grease off there, eat it. But you at work with that. Oh, hell no. No. Right? So it sound good. You make some baked chicken and then you got to heat it up in the microwave. Now it's all dried out. Ain't nobody got time for that. So, like I said, some people make their dinners by the day. whoever, whatever. I'm just saying, y'all, we gotta change our eating habits, right? When you let me tell you something. Let me say this real quick. I'm mixing up my macaroni, right? Cause honey, I ain't said I just left sodium intake, right? Don't judge me. But anyways, that's how everybody be gulping stuff down in people's throats. You need to do this, you need to do that, while they in the back mixing up some ham hocks. Woo, turkey tail. Fried chicken. Oxtail. With all that smothered gravy. Whew, it's just hard, y'all. I'm just saying. Especially when you can cook your butt off, right? Anywho's, let's keep going. Let me tell you something. I know it's a problem when anytime I went to the doctor yesterday, y'all. And my doctor came in and said, okay, we're going to go through the charts together. What do you want me to do about this? Right? And she was trying to ask me what medicines that I want. Right? Not no crazy, nothing crazy. But you, my doctor, you're supposed to go through my chart and see what's best and what would help with what. Why would you be asking me, okay, what should we do with this and what should we do with that? Right? I know we in trouble, y'all. Anytime, y'all, my doctor that I had for years that I hadn't trusted in, y'all, asked me what did I want to do about my stuff on my chart, right? If you got low potassium, what you want to do about that? So how should we handle this? And excuse me? It was very nonchalant, not caring, did not care about my health and my well-being, right? And she was like, you usually see my husband, right? I usually see both of y'all. You ain't forgot me. What's up? What's going on? But why would you come in here and sit down and ask me what do I want to do about what's going on and this, that, and the other? Then I got these issues now. Y'all, she did give me my vitamins that I needed. And I told her, I said, I need a shot of B12. Well, we didn't do a B12 thing. And so she told me that she wanted me to take the vitamins and then come back, anytime your doctor is sitting you down, asking you what you want to do about what, and then she scheduled me, she should have sent me out for, she said, when is the last time you had a physical? And I said, it's been some time. It's time for me to get one now, right? I basically told her I wanted a physical. She scheduled my physical out 3 months from yesterday. If I got issues going on today, and I'm telling you something's bothering me today, why are you scheduling my physical out 3 months from now, 2 to 3 months? And I told the guy when I got in the front, he said, you want to schedule for 2 months or 3 months? I said, if I had to choose, it's going to be 2 months, right? I got some issues going on now. She should be getting a physical done now, certain blood work and stuff now, right? And so basically she tried to go off the hospital's testing, but the hospital didn't test everything, right? He was just trying to figure out what was making these things going on at that time. And so he summarized what he could potentially think that was going on, and then he submitted those tests for his summary of his analysis, right? And so for me to have to do a follow-up with you, and you come in here and ask me what do I think we should do about it, and then you turn around and give me all these medicines and then tell me don't do nothing about nothing. That man told me, y'all, that my iron was so low that I needed to go get iron transfusions like when I go see my doctor, right? He said, your iron is way too low. You need like iron transfusion. She did absolutely nothing, right? And so she says, I'm going to give you this type of medicine right here. Take that medicine and go get a testing done in 3 weeks, right? After you took the medicine for 3 weeks, go get a testing done. We're going to see if it brought this up, right? But what I'm saying is that everything could have been killed in 2 stones had she would have just done the right thing, which was go send me out. You looking in the system. You know I went to the hospital yesterday. You know that I need iron transfusions. You should have just sent me out to the hospital and say, here, go to the hospital. I'm going to give you this referral. Go out there, get your transfusions. Boom, that's taken care of, right? And then follow it up with this medication. You can't have somebody starting this low when they already this low. You understand? I'm not even a doctor and I know this. But so basically what I'm saying is they going to do and be what they want to do and be. We have to stand up for ourselves. And so I had him for so long, right? And with her husband telling me that they've been bullied into this entity, right? So you telling me that you've been bullied into this entity and so y'all just not going to give a damn? Y'all just not going to care anymore because y'all been bullied in this entity and to do it this way, right? But you ain't been bullied to change your heart. You ain't been bullied to change how you help and assist somebody. You ain't been bullied to stop caring, right? You just been bullied to do it this way and go about the payment system this way. And since it's about the payment system and all this stuff, you don't give a damn no more, right? So it pulled out what and who you already was, right? And so you was only nice, kind, and gentle. Was only all those things: caring, nice, kind, gentle, willing to go above and beyond, right? Because they was getting paid to be that and to become that, right? And by them being an individual corporation, individual entity, they can charge and do what they want to do, right? How they want to do it. And since they can't do what they want to do anymore, overcharging the insurance, overcharging the people to help them, right? Now they mad, and so they bringing out their true characteristics and who they are. She sit there and she said, how you doing? And whoop, right? And then they're very judgmental, right? Very judgmental. Well, we can't do this, and I'm not going to do this. How you sit me down and tell me should we do about this, but then tell me we can't do this or order this, right? No, that ain't how it's about to go. And so this type of stuff right here need to be spoke about, because there's a lot of people that's going through this type of stuff, right? And so the first thing I want to tell people, right, we can't blame those entities for being who they are, because at the end of the day, they all got demons on them, right? They all find their own demons, right? And God forbid that you have been a user in the past. When I say user, I mean like been on drugs of some form and you done straighten out your life. You really in trouble, right? And so people don't like to talk about this type of stuff though, right? And so you can be 5-10 years sober or whatever it is and go through something, and they don't want to give you that because of whatever reason, but they the problem. But let's not talk about the fact that they trying to hold something from you, and all the motherfuckers high, right? All of them in the background pumping themselves with shit and ordering themselves anxiety medicine and whatever else there is, right? To order themselves. They all getting high. Right? They addicts too, right? They trying to hide who they is, like they ain't never been a damn addict, right? And so, April 13th, I still got some time. And so, y'all making me some macaroni with some almond milk. But, they some of the craziest addicts you ever want to meet is your doctor, your OBGYN, all of them. They all getting high, right? Because I know for a fact my OBGYN was getting high throughout my pregnancy, right? She looked at a hot goddamn mess. Higher than a giraffe's ass. She had lost so much weight, she looked at sick. She was on that shit. COVID hit. Everybody was stressed and depressed, and everybody ended up on fucking drugs. Let's be honest. Okay? They was on them too. So, they want to treat you like some outraged addict, right? Instead of doing what's right, because they outraged addicts. They crackheads. They dope fiends. They in the back pumping themselves with medicine, and the dentists in there hitting themselves with the laughing gas, right? And so, y'all, I'm being honest. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, right? And so, y'all, this is my cup. And let's not talk about the same judges and lawyers that's on the bench judging people, right? Right? Somebody coming in there struggling or went through something or might have done some type of drug in their past and they sober now. And you got people out here who family members and no judge, no lawyer, no doctor, no nothing, never knew they was on no judge, because it's called functioning addicts, right? Functioning addicts. How do I know? Because I was one before. And so, functioning addicts, right? And so you confide and tell your doctor, like, hey, I struggle with this, but I've been clean for over 10 years. But in the past, I have struggled with this, right? And they acting like they came into some form of news, right? You ain't have to tell them nothing. There's a lot of people out here that went through stuff and going through stuff and been through stuff and came through out the other side, clean and unscathed, right? And you think you on the up and up, right? And then the same people who never knew nothing about you, you share something with them, and now they up there judging you for something they never even knew you struggle with. Never knew, could never tell, right? Because like I said, functioning addicts, they go to work. They don't look like they doing nothing. You can't tell from looking at them that they touch nothing in their life, right? And so, when I was doing, I liked it. Perks was my drug of choice. Percocets, Perk 5s, 12s, 512s, 503, 504, 64, 94, 84, 60. I'm just saying. Right? Nobody around me knew I was doing nothing. Nobody around me knew I was doing shit. right? Because I didn't go over 5s. If I had to take a 10, I split that motherfucker in half, right? And the start of it came from the doctor. The start of it came, let's talk about it. The start of that came from the doctor, right? It was something small that they put you on something for something small, right? And come to find out, let me be honest here, right? I ended up getting hurt and I had to go to the doctor. My doctor was the first person that introduced me to drugs. I never knew nothing about no drugs, right? My mom was a crackhead, but I mean, who was gonna be let me go. Let me keep going, right? But at the end of the day, I was raised by my dad's side of the family. So I wasn't involved in that type of stuff, right? I was a little church girl. And so my doctor was the person, my drug dealer. And so when I found and come to find out, let me tell y'all something. This was many years ago. Something happened to me and my doctor gave me a prescription drug, right? And so this prescription drug made me feel like I can, damn, I can go to work. I ain't tired. I ain't sleepy, right? I can get up and clean up my house. Oh, I feel all right, right? And so that thing turned into a problem because of lack of proper care, lack of them not doing their job, right? And so come to find out, right? I'm sitting up here, y'all, this ain't something, I've been complaining about this for years. I'm tired. I'm sleepy, y'all. I can't get through half the day without wanting to take a damn nap. I can't get through not even half. After I'm up for an hour, I'm ready to go back to bed, right? And so this is something that I struggle with throughout my life. And it's called, what is the word for that? Malpractice. I'm complaining to them about these things, right? And they never said, hey, and I got blood work done over and over and over throughout my life. With the iron thing, this is not something that just started, right? There's something that they hid and didn't say nothing about. There's something that they didn't give a shit to say nothing to me about, right? And like I said, I've been going on and off for years. Every year, I was one of them people who, when it came to doctor's appointments and all that stuff, taking my daughter to the doctor and all that stuff, I was up on it, right? And so over the years, since my son passed away, the malpractice is so bad that I'm scared to go to the doctor for real, right? I haven't really been to the doctor since my son passed away. Right? I think I've been one time after my son passed away, and the way they treated me inside of there, well, maybe you should see a psychiatrist and all this stuff. Yo, I didn't go in there complaining and crying just because my son passed away. Instead of him listening to me about what's going on with my body, right? He just heard me say my son passed away and just assumed whatever he wanted to assume. I never said nothing to him what's going on with me mentally. Not one time. Not one single time, right? And so I was wondering why this man was jumping the gun like that, because you got to understand, my doctor was jumping the gun like that because a lot of them be involved in doing stuff behind your back, right? And it's deeper than that. And I'm going to keep going as I tell these stories about what's going on. Even with my family and stuff, right? When you got people trying to steal inheritance from you and money from you, right? I remember my sister asked me what doctor I went to because she wanted to go get some type of work, blood work done, and she was looking for a new doctor. And so I told her my doctor, not knowing that she going behind the scene trying to get some, y'all, they doing some grimy shit out here, right? And it's going to come to the surface. So I don't want to get on that right now. I'll say that for another day, and I'm going to tell it. And so anyways, your doctors is not caring about you, flat out. And so when you want to go get test results done, they not coming back to you saying, I'm looking at your chart, and it's saying all these things going on with you, right? Just that and the other. And one thing about it is when you're RH negative, they act like they don't have a lot of research on that, but they actually do. They act like they don't know what's going on with RH negative people, but they do, right? They hide it. They hide all the research from it. And so now you got to ask yourself, why do they keep trying to slide these in here once a year on your ass, right? And so then it takes me back to family members trying to get into the same doctors as me, right? So people behind the scene trying to taking money behind the scene, right? To put this in your chart so it can hold up in court on your ass. So when they having these court dates behind your ass without you being notified, without you knowing nothing that's going on, to steal from you and to take and to make you look incompetent, right? It will stick because the doctor said, right? That you got your doctors involved. It's a lot of Truman Show ass shit that's going on in the background, right? I didn't get on here for this today, but God letting it come out for a reason. And I'm posting this today too. Y'all, normally it take me a minute. I got 1,000 videos and I ain't posting yet. But God is calling me to the forefront to post this, right? I did this video 3 different times because when I was trying to talk about it and decided to store somebody, because I was in there buying the salt-free stuff, right? Let me show y'all so you can know I ain't lying. I was in there buying all this sodium-free stuff to implement it into my diet. This guy kept following me around the store and standing behind me talking real loud, right? So I would switch it. He got on my nerves so bad. I would switch aisles and go down the aisle where nobody was at, and he kept following me down the aisleways. And so the last bit of it, I went down another aisle where nobody was in, and he got behind me and started to talk really, really, really loud, right? And so and brushed his back up against mine like he was getting something. Wouldn't get nothing, right? And so they send these type of people in to follow you, to doppelgang, to harass you, right? And so I've been noticing that people been following me in these stores, right? And it's getting so out of control. Anytime you in a store, right? And you in there minding your business. I'm a person that when I want to get what I'm going to get, I zone out into my own world. And so if I'm zoned out into my world, anybody who know me know that about me. When I get in the store, that's my peace. That's my sanctuary. I don't go in the store a lot of times to even shop. I go in, I just look around that stuff. I put a little bit of stuff in my cart. I take it back out and put it back in there again. That's just my skilo. And I didn't even know I did that until I had a doppelganger around me that came into my life. And she told me I did that, right? Right. And so anyways, these people I've been noticing has been following me into these stores. And they're doing things like brushing up against me. Y'all, I was inside of the Walmart. And I'm leaned down looking at a seasoning, right? And the seasoning, I was looking at a white girl come up to me and stands right next to me. Now, I'm leaned down like this in the alleyway looking at the pepper, looking for the smoked paprika in front of me, right? And I'm short, so I'm leaned down like this. A white girl walks up to me, and paid this hoe off the street, walks up to me, stands next to me, shoulder to shoulder. She's standing shoulder to shoulder. She go as far as, right? Because she was already following me through the store. These weird old... let me stay calm, okay? She walks up to me, put her shoulder on my shoulder, lean on me. Bitch, I will bash you on your goddamn head. Get off of me. She leans up on me and take her motherfucking neck and yanks that bitch out and swirls it around in front of my motherfucking head. I ain't never seen no shit like that, you turtleneck bitch. That's a reptilian. That was a reptilian, right? She shoulder to shoulders me, so leans down, right? Because I'm bent down. I'm like this, right? Looking for the smoked paprika. Well, my salt-free shit. She comes up, put her shoulder on mine, stand next to me, and takes her head and rolls it around to the front of my head while her body is still over here, y'all. I'm not fucking even joking, not even a little bit. I turns around, looks at her body, looks at her head, stands up, and I say, you need to bag the fuck up. You are in my personal space. You are invading my boundaries. She didn't even say nothing because she knew she was. She could not say nothing. She wasn't expecting for me to say nothing or take up for myself, right? Because they had did it so much over the years, right? They had did it so much over the years that I had ignored it, right? It's like a badass kid jumping up on stuff and you constantly telling them to stop. Or a baby, mama. As a mother, as a father, you deal with it so much, you learn how to tune it out, right? Badass kid, tune that motherfucker out, right? And so that's the same thing with these people that's following me around. And I'm not the only one going through shit like this. Following me around from my jobs to the grocery store, right? I had stopped working because it was so bad at the workplace. I just gave up. I said, Lord, you're going to have to take care of me. I ain't dealing with this no more. Y'all demons jumping off the wall, right? And so they figured, well, since we can't get her nowhere, we can't get her in her home no more. I had to move because it was bad over there in the neighborhood. They paid the neighbors to do it. Coming up in my house, stuff being moved around, water being poisoned, right? I moved from there, and so I'm somewhere now they can't come up in here, right? Fully locked and loaded. Ain't gonna make it out. So anyways, we gonna play the crying games, right? It's time to play. And so anyways, so since they can't come in my sanctuary, right? They went as far as taking my car. They did a lot of things, right? And so doing antagonizing stuff want a response to siphon energy, and they can't get it because I'm not feeding off into it. Because once you know better, you do better. You don't feed off into that, right? And so, what was I about to say, y'all? They sending the people into the stores, into my out when I go outside, they send them in, right? And so like I'll go outside, it's like 10 white cars lined up. The next day you go outside, they got 15 red cars lined up, 10 black cars lined up. It's like irate things that you cannot miss, right? It's going to make you pay attention, right? Because I told you, I'll be so much in my own world, right? It's like a nonchalant, and people like that, narcissists and people that's doing that to you, they cannot stand a nonchalant person, a nonchalant personality, right? And my personality is very nonchalant, and it's very in my own world, right? And so even like in relationships, I dealt with narcissists and they could not stand the fact that I was nonchalant. And so when I got out of those relationships, a lot of them try to go and ruin me and slander my name and do stuff. And I still didn't respond to it. Right. Right. So anyways, y'all stop responding to these narcs. Stop getting on here screaming and hollering and yelling about what they, all that stuff. Right. Because you're feeding them. Right. This is my story, and I'm telling my story years later. Right? Things are still going on in the now, but it's a difference from telling your story than trying to prove yourself, right? Prove your story. Let him talk, and then you going to run and respond to what a person said about you. That is a big difference, right? And so anyways, what my uncle used to say, we don't address lanes, right? So anyways, it was a lot of things that was going on, y'all. A lot of things that are still going on, right? And a lot of people that got to come to the forefront. And this people that's trying to shut me up, right? Been sending heart attack spells, monitoring spirits, a lot of stuff, right? Because when God opened me up to this world over here for me to understand what an attack was, because I didn't know what all this stuff was, right? And so for me to know what it is now, within these last 3 years, I found out going on to the 4th year. It's going into the 4th year because my son would be would have been 4 years old, May 4th of this year. And so going into the 4th year, God had begun to expose things to me. And even though I didn't understand a lot of what was going on, God let me run into things, people, places, and go through some more things for me to understand everything else that had happened. Right. And so, you know, it's real when God opened you up to something that you've never been opened up to. Right. I was raised in church, y'all. I didn't know stuff like this even existed. I didn't know people do stuff like this. I didn't know. And for me not to know that let you know how in my own world that I was in, right? Even when I got out on my own. And so, this always been happening. God showed me that it's always been happening, but I always protected you, right? Because when you're innocent and you don't know, God will protect you. And so that don't mean, and a lot of things that I went through in my life was at the hands of people that I knew, right? Because people knew who you was. A word that God gave me was everybody know but you. Everybody know what's going on but you. Everybody know what's taking place and what has taken place in your life but you. So being that everybody knew but me, right? And when God started to expose these things to me about what people was doing to me and what they was all involved in doing and still is doing, before I completely found out how bad it was and the detriment of what people was actually doing and who all was involved in doing these things to me, I started to get downloads. And I would tell people, like, certain people in my family, like, damn, this happening. Damn, this person doing this. Damn, right? I was naming people because I didn't know, right? God had just opened me up to a world, and I was in a state of shock to this world that I've been in. Right? The world of my lane, the world of what they've been doing to me, the world of who I've been involved in taking and stealing and siphoning and trying to take and trying to step in birthrights before you can step in your birthright and, you know, kitchen witches and right. And as time went on, I was wondering why these people that I would tell this to, right, family members, that I was telling them things was happening to me, would act funny towards me or snout their nose up at me or try to play me like I was crazy and I don't know what you talking about, right? They was telling on themselves, right? And this particular person that I was speaking to about the things that, like the water that was getting poisoned in my house. I was getting poisoned through I had water bottles and somebody was sneaking in my house, poisoning my water, right? And I'm talking about I was getting sick. I'm talking about my heart was beating out of my chest. I'm talking about hot flashes out of this world. I'm talking about shaking, right? I'm talking about somebody tried to take me out of here, right? But God built me for a tub. And I've been saying God built me with sugar and spice and everything nice, right? God hears us. God hears us. God is with us. And God ain't let nothing happen to us, right? And God will send you signs to let you know that he hear you, right? Because I went inside of the store the other day, and people might think this is small, but I found this coat on sale for $18, right? And I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks, that God made me with sugar and spice and everything nice. And that is a word from the Powerpuff Girls, right? God heard me saying that. And I went into the store and I seen that, right? God also sent me numbers all throughout the day, right? Signs, synchronicities. I got a thing when it comes to birds and stuff as well, right? I'm very gifted, very tapped in, right? But I didn't know how tapped in I was and how on point I was with the words that I was speaking, right? And the people that I was speaking this to, they were scared. And so what they was trying to do was disprove me and discredit me before I even found out that they was involved, right? So it was like a particular individual that I was speaking to about the things that was happening to me. And every time I would speak about it, they kept like implementing themselves without knowing it. And that's how I found out they was involved. Right? Because I was like, damn, somebody sneaking in my house, poisoning me, man. Somebody coming in here. And I don't know nothing about that. Right? This is what they said to me. I don't know nothing about that. One thing they never told me that person never told me I was crazy. And that person never told me that I was wrong in what I was saying. Right? Because they was too guilty to try to even say, oh, girl, you crazy. Or that's crazy. Or, anything like that. When I was saying these things, right, they was too in shock that I was on point like that and what was going on, right? Could you imagine you doing something that foul to somebody, trying to get them to cost them their life so you can steal from them, right? And this person naming out who involved, what they doing and what they doing behind the scene, right? Without them even knowing, right? And on top of that, they trying to prove that you ain't really connected to God. This individual was trying to prove that I was not really connected to God and think I don't know, right? But they know that you connected to God deep down inside. They know you more tapped in than them. And a lot of them people, they do have a connection, but they disconnected this season because of the foul things that they done. They disconnected themselves, right? But you got these church folk that they mad because they want it their way. The word comes one way with them, right? And that's in a lot of these religions. It's one way. It's their way, and that's it. That's all, right? And so I've been in a lot of different fields, right? I done seen a lot of different things, right? And so I come from a place of being raised in church, beat down, bruised, and battered in the church, right? Getting the word instilled in me, right? And so that comes up to today when I got a lift and I ran into this. He wasn't a pastor, but he was like a deacon or something, right? And he started to talk to me about the word of God because I got in the car and I was listening to tarot, right? I was listening to this woman on tarot. And so he said, who was that you listening to? But the word was so good, he didn't even know I was listening to tarot. The advice in the healing, telling people how to heal, was so good that he didn't even know I was listening to tarot, right? And so he's like, dang, who was that you listening to? They got a good word. They got some good, that's some healing stuff right there, right? And I said, tarot. And he was like, what? Tarot. Oh, because God said, right? And I'm like, what? Right? He was very, very nice and kind. I'm not going to put that type of energy on him. But he tried to convince me in the word in a different way, right? And he said some things that was true. But then I also said what I said, and he agreed, right? And that's what I liked it about him, because it's not a lot of church people that's like that will listen to you and understand what you're saying and willing to understand what you're saying when you're saying it, right? And so by the end of that, he understood. I was raised in church. He knew a lot of the things, right? And I was telling him I said, a lot of these churches are cults, right? And he understood a lot. And I said, and you people talking about go to the church, right? And I said, but your pastor flying over to Africa. That man understood what I was saying. And I said, you got to be careful with the pastors you're going to now, too, because they're flying overseas and getting these different initiations. And he knew exactly what I was saying because he was finishing the sentences as I was saying them. So he understood everything I was saying, right? And I said, you want to know, I dealt with church. I dealt with all these different things. And I told him, I said, yep, I listened to tarot and this would help me, right? And I said, I went to church my whole life, or my whole childhood, or all the way up into my teens, right? And I said, every day we was into church. I was in choir, I was in this, I was in anything that you can think of that got to do with the church. I was in there, miming, dancing, singing, Bible study, everything you would think of. And I said, and God, I said, I feel like all that church I had, God didn't let me hear nothing. I said, I didn't hear, I don't remember nothing them people said. And he said, because God didn't want to taint you for the job that he got you about to do, right? And he spoke words of inspiration and power to me, right? And he turned around and told me something that's not repeatable, right? Because that's between me, him, and God. He said something to me. And he said to me, he said, I can't argue your point. He could not argue. You know how some people that's into church heavy like that, they want to argue why that's wrong, right? And I said, you know who taught me how to heal? The tarot community. That's who taught me how to heal. That's who taught me how to get on my healing journey. That's who forced me into that field, right? With loving, I said, they some of the most loving people, right? I said, the word don't just come one way. And he wanted to, you could see in his face, he wanted to argue it so bad. He could not. He could not, right? And so he said to me, he said that he was a prophet, right? And he was telling me about how he goes into the spirit and pray. And I said, but you cannot pray for everybody, right? Because you go into the spirit and intervening for all these different people. You don't even know what they fighting, right? My grandmother fell ill for going up in the spirit fighting on other people's behalf. I said, but you don't, I said, that person might be fighting something, right? I said, but who's to say if they lineage didn't go kill somebody's baby, right? Out of jealousy. Off somebody's baby. Oh, she had the baby by a man I wanted, so I'm going to take her baby. Right? Because it's a lot of that type of stuff. And so that falls on that lineage. And somebody in that lineage got to play an innocent debt to get that off of them. And then you, innocent bystander, going up in the spirit fighting that person's demons and they generational cursing and healing that they needed to fix. And now you getting whooped on. Now you got internal issues going on with you. Now you sick. Now you fighting, not cheating on your wife because they sex demon that jumped on you. You got to be careful who you going up in the spirit for. And that man couldn't even say, he just like, damn, you absolutely right. He said, you right about that. Because all he kept talking about was how he prayed for people and how he kept saying how he go in the spirit and intercede for people, right? But I said, you need to be careful with that, right? My grandmother, she ended up having a stroke. She started passing out at random. What else she was doing? She had heart issues with her heart ended up filling up with fluid. She had a lot of things that was happening to her. She ended up having a stroke. She ended up becoming bedridden. She went blind in both of her eyes, right? And one day I sit down, right? And people want to say they the strongest one. They the one God talking to. This, that, the other, right? And one day I sit down and I told my grandmother, she was in the bed. She couldn't see no nothing. And she had a nurse coming in and out taking care of her. And so me and her was in there by herself. And I said, Granny, I said, I just got something to say to you. I said, do you ever wonder why you here in this bed? And she said, yeah, I talk to God all the time about it. And I said, have he gave you anything? And she said, I know some things, right? And I said, Granny, I just want to say this to you. Sometimes we pray and talk to God and you want to hear a word from God, right? And I said, and we don't want to accept the word that's coming from who it is because you more powerful than, right? You more connected to God than that person you feel like. I said, but that's not always true. And she said, you right. And I said, when I was a kid, I would watch her go into the spirit and intervene. I would watch her put people in a circle with her friends and stump the devil out, right? And I said, and you always went up in the spirit for somebody else. I said, I feel like to a certain extent, maybe not with everything, but have you ever thought that you were sitting in this bed for going up in the spirit for people? Her mouth dropped open. I said, you was going up in that spirit, fighting other people's demons. I said, you wasn't covered all the way fully. I said, you have to cover yourself, right? And that takes practice to go and cover yourself, right? We taught to go sit on the forefront of that bench and go pray for people. But did you fast? Did you protect yourself before you went in the spirit? Right? Or did you get on the phone with Sister Sarah and such and Mojo and Hojo and Billy Bo and Rejawo, right? And tell them, hey, brother such and such got an issue, a demon up in him. I need y'all to come over here so we can go in prayer. Right? I said, because a lot of times I seen you going prayer. I didn't see you doing no type of nothing to protect yourself before you went up in there. You called your team. Y'all stood in the floor and y'all stumped the devil out. Y'all did a dang good job. Y'all got them demons up off them. You whooped them off of them. Y'all did good. But I never seen you once go up in the spirit and protect yourself before you went up in the spirit to help them. She said, I never thought about it like that. And I was happy she was honest. She said, I never thought about it like that. That's interesting. And I said, that's all I wanted to say to you. Y'all, we got to be smarter about what it is that we doing, right? And God been giving me this word for a while now. And everything that I said is to protect ourselves for the people who, I don't care if you do tarot, going up in the spirit and tarot, going up in the spirit, praying for somebody, right? You have to protect yourself before you go up in the spirit, right? And God gave me this story where I came across this story, and the lady said that her grandmother was attacking this woman, right? And because her day restaurants was doing better than the others at that time, and she was mad, but the granny was mad about it, and she went and did all these things, right? And something ended up happening to the woman, and they had to call the pastor, right? I already said that story. I might post it. And so out of all that I got, what stuck out to me the most is that when the granny called the pastor, and the pastor had to do all these things, including fast, before he went into the spirits for the grandmother to break that off of her, right? And so the granny ended up getting healed, and he said, don't do that again, because if you do it again, you might not make it this time. She was twisted up and barking like a dog, right? For going up in the spirit, attacking a woman who was covered. And so, and even though she ended up going to a witch doctor, and the witch doctor, they still using your energy to do the attack. And so, anyways, y'all, the pastor had to go and do all these things, and the granny ended up doing it again, right? And she ended up passing after she did it that time. He told her, don't do it again. I don't think you're going to make it if you do that again. Don't do that again, right? She did it again, and she ended up leaving up out of here, hard-headed. And so, and greed and jealousy and envy, that's where they get you. Don't go up in that spirit attacking people. So, anyways, that's what stuck out to me the most, though, out of that story, was that the pastor had did things to break that off, right? And so a lot of people, they're screaming that they're chosen and that they in these churches and they singing kumbaya ho ho ho, right, up in the spirit with the tongues, right? But y'all not fasting, right? And then another thing that somebody sent to me, it was a man and a woman said, that was a while back. I came across that story about that woman going up in the spirit, and the pastor had to fast to go up in the spirit on her behalf, right? And then another a thing that just came to me recently, somebody sent me, and the lady, it was a Caucasian man and an African American woman sitting down, and I know some of y'all done seen that, and he said, I don't trust pastors who's like over 400 pounds, 400 pounds. And she said, oh, not the baby back ribs. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, that was funny the way she said it. She said, not the baby back ribs, right? And so he said, when have you put away your plate to hear from God, right? When have you fasted, right? Like, and he was being honest in how he felt. I don't feel like he was being funny, not even a little bit, right? And he was even talking about, like, I think he even said something about people like muscle building and something. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But he was talking about, I might have seen something else and mixing that together. I don't know. But he was basically saying, like, the pastors is overweight and we need them to pray over us and fight on our behalf, these entities that we're dealing with. But the pastor is overweight. And in order for, you ain't putting away your plate fasting at 300 and 400 pounds, right? You can't discipline yourself on your own. So how you disciplining yourself on the behalf to go in the spirit to do that, right? And so it's not being funny, it's not being mocking, it's the truth, right? And so I'm sorry, I can't go to no church with no big pastor because that made me think, right? That made me really think. Like, you right, you absolutely right. And the reason why I'm able to say that too as well is because somebody I know is going to a church. And the pastor is big, a beautiful soul, beautiful man, right? I'm not going to sit up here and do that to him. Beautiful, beautiful person. He preached at my son's funeral and everything, right? Beautiful person at heart, right? But we went out to eat a couple times with them. And he got up and circled that table, right? Because my sister and her fiance had got like a free meal for getting engaged. And he circled that table like, what's on this plate? What's on that? Right? And he was watching everybody plate come down watching everybody play. And there's some big people in their family, but they are beautiful people. I'm not saying that they're not beautiful people. They're very beautiful people. Some of the most beautiful people you ever want to meet. But I can't go to you asking you to go up in no spirit for me and to heal me and to go ask God and tell God X, Y, and Z when that requires a sacrifice. And a majority of the time is fasting. It's fasting, right? And so that's even with myself and anybody else, right? And so a lot of people out here are saying that they're chosen, but to be chosen is bigger than anybody can ever think, right? It's bigger, and it takes a lot of training as well. That's like training. What I feel like is worse training than being in the army. That is. They try to say like a lot of them trainings is like heavy hitting training. I'm talking about the spirit training for that is serious. Spiritual training is serious, right? And so anytime somebody says, oh, I'm chosen, and you say, I'm breaking generational curses, but is you really, do you know what that means? That they're chosen and you're not chosen. They said many are led, but few are chosen. And I said that to that deacon in that car tonight. And he was on point with everything I said. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And he agreed. And when he didn't agree with, he said it. And he made me understand why, right? He wasn't shoving it down my throat. And he told me, he said, you turned away for a little bit, but God is going to take you back. God's taking you back to the church because you're going to correct a lot of things. Just for me talking, right? That man could have been just shut me down. God didn't let me run into one of those because it would have turned me all the way off, right? Because I've already been there. And it was very disgusting on what I've seen, right? And so, and learning, when you learn, when you get older, you start learning about different things, I was just turned off, right? And it wasn't even about hypocrites. It was just everything, right? Witches, warlocks in the church, all that stuff, right? You touching people, touching you, right? And I'm very sensitive to energy, right? And so I shut myself down from a lot of things, even the world, right? I got to be careful what I take in. And so I'm in spiritual training right now. It's very, very hard to be in spiritual training because even your family come up against you, right? They've been coming up against you because that demon in them knew that you was going to take them up out of them and take that. So there's a lot of fighting going on, right? And years ago when I did go to church, the guy said, it's people that's jealous of you, it's people that's haters. He said, but it's not them, it's the demons in them and the demons that's using them, right? And everything ain't demons. Let's get that straight. But when you on this journey, a lot of it is, right? And so I'm not fully all the way there. Many are led, but only few are chosen, right? Stop saying that for the clout. People say it because it sounds good. That is the biggest statement that you can say out your mouth, right? And so to be chosen is to be at mastery with self, right? And a lot of people, you ain't mastered self when you can't even fast. You can't put away your plate for the day, right? Right? So, and to be a generational curse breaker is not to only be the generational curse breaker for your lineage, right? It's to be for everybody, right? It's to help. And I kept saying, God, well, how, when I was younger, how would my little bitty old life change anything, right? I'm like a grain of sand. And on a big old beach, right? But if God chose a lot of us to do this thing, right, and chose a lot of us for this training, right, this spiritual warfare training, right, it causes a lot of discipline, a lot of obedience, right? And so God will wake me up out of my sleep in the middle of the night. Some days I won't even go to sleep, and my granny went through that, and she did a lot of it, right? But it's hard, right? It's hard. It's very hard. And so it's a lot of sacrifice, right? My son being one of them. And at the hands of other people as well, right? What makes it even harder is when you got people depending on your life and what your assignment is, right? Come on, down. Got my dog. Depending on what you gotta do, right? What your job is, right? Because all of us got different jobs. depending on how hard that state is, right? And the closer you get done with that training, or almost done with that particular training, because you're never done. Go ahead, Nola. When you get done with that specific training, I'll let them out. When you get done with that specific training, you're back into training again on something else, right? You never done. And every time when I first started this thing, I thought I always knew this and knew that. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I got that and I'm done. And it was always something that was bigger than the last time, right? And I'm like, oh man, God, what's happening, right? And I didn't know that I was one of the ones that God chose to do this thing, right? I didn't know what that was. And a lot of us who like go through stuff like that, like this thing, our life been hard for us since we came out of the womb, right? Family trauma, being beat on by your family members. We had some of the most tumultuous upbringings that you would ever want to see. That you would ever want to see. We did everything but die, right? And some of us did and came back, right? God wasn't ready for us to go yet, right? And so that was another thing that my family was hiding from me, right? I ended up passing away when I had my son. And everybody was, I'm like, why is my house almost cleared out when I got back? I bought $700 worth of food, right? I bought all kind of stuff after I had my son. And that's a whole nother story. I got a video on that, right? And so I'm not going to go there. And so anyways, God had woke me up out of my sleep. Is what I was trying to say. It's harder when you got people actually spiritually attacking you in the spirit, while God is also training you, right? And so a lot of times you ain't just being trained. You ain't just woke up and say, I'm going to train for this today, right? A lot of times it takes for something tumultuous to happen for you to understand. And a lot of times it take you a while to understand what that even is that's going on with you, right? And so the biggest thing is like waking up in the middle of the night. Like God wake me up throughout the night. Sometimes I won't even go to sleep, right? And somebody was spiritually attacking me, right? The 2 days I had to go to the hospital. Then I scheduled me a doctor's appointment. I was being spiritually attacked really, really, really bad. And somebody was trying to push into my energy. And I had angels surrounding me, right? And when I woke up out of my sleep, the first thing I heard was ambulance, right? That was letting me know that who was at the side got the ambulance. Archangel Michael. He was coming through there, right? And so I had to call on my angels in here. And I was not in fear at all, right? But even in that time, right? God been giving me the test of Job. Let me go back for a second. When I say the test of Job, because I don't want to skip over that, because that's a very serious test. That is a test. Understand me. Us chosen ones, we go through that test of Job. People like to get on here and talk about Job, right? That's one of my favorite stories, y'all. And it became my favorite story because I had to go through it, right? A lot of times it ain't your favorite because it's your favorite. It's your favorite. It was my favorite story because I had to go through it and I had to understand what I was going through to know even about the story of Job. Because remember I told you God blotted my ears out, right, when I was in the church. And so I didn't hear nothing. I didn't remember a lot of the things that was said in church. Matter of fact, I didn't remember nothing. And so I'm happy I didn't, because God let me learn it for myself, right? And so one day I opened up the Bible and I said, God, give me a word, any word, the word that you want me to have, right? And I opened up the Bible and it landed on Job, right? And so I read Job. And so sometimes I struggle with the reading. I read really good, but I struggle with like reading and taking it in, right? And understanding it. So what we got now? YouTube. So I went on YouTube and I pulled up the cartoon. It was a cartoon on there that was on. There was people explaining it, but I didn't want their side. I wanted the innocent. And I got it through a cartoon, right? People make cartoons of the Bible. And so this cartoon came up. And so God was showing me that I was going through the test of Job. And I lost everything. I lost my car, I lost my house, but it was all at the hands of some supernatural and the hands of other people, right? It was supernatural, but it was also through the hands of other people and people causing down spiritual warfare, witches and warlocks, right? And I lost everything, right? I had to go stay with somebody, and I thank God for that. And I'm still in the midst of it, right? But I'm okay. And so I'm like, why am I losing all this stuff? I was losing stuff that I shouldn't even have lost. I shouldn't have lost it, right? I shouldn't have lost my house. I had to leave from my house because they had the landlord involved. She was doing stuff. They putting cameras inside of my house. All these things that was happening to me, y'all. And I just thank God in the midst of it. And I thank God that God let me cross somebody where he opened up that door for me to go ahead and transition smoothly, right? It was a smooth transition, right? And so even though I had to go through it, God had prepared me to have smooth transitions, right? And so even with my car, still smooth transition. Oh, they got Lyft. I didn't even know what Lyft was like that, y'all. I got on Lyft, y'all. Oh, is this cheap? Damn, I'm paying a car note, I'm paying insurance, I'm paying all this stuff. I saved that. I'm gonna save me a couple dollars, right? I found solace in the darkest places, right? I found grace. I found God's mercy in the darkest places, right? I had nothing. I still have nothing, right? But I'm okay. I'm able to do everything, but nothing at all, right? And what God was trying to do was disconnect me from ways of the world. He was at the hands of other people, but I still understood that it ain't, God had to take his hands off of it in order for it to happen. Okay? And so even after I lost all that, then the job got to acting weird, right? Lost my car. I said, okay, let me get my car back. And I'm watching people movement, right? It's so many people involved in this thing, right? Even where I had to transition to, and God just keep me safe. He keep me safe, right? And so that ended up happening. And I said, okay, well, God, I'm going to take the Lyft in, right? And then guess what happened after that? I ended up having to leave my job. I walked out of there. They wouldn't stop. They was flying off the walls like monkeys, like demons, right? And I said, what is happening here, right? The day that they came and got my car, they came and got my car so fast, my head had to, they was moving fast as hell, right? So it let you know just how many people in on this thing, right? Y'all, the way I seen people moving, it was so demonic and so entity oriented. That makes sense. It was entity oriented, right? It was like you turn into God. Oh, okay. All right, you could turn to God, but you're going to lose everything of the world. Y'all, I lost everything of the world. I even lost my kids, right? My son passed. My daughter had a demon on her. She was doing stuff, right? And I'm like, what's happening, right? She going, oh, God, y'all. Everything of this world had to go. God stripped me. The only thing I got is clothes, some food, right? And I'm still like thanking God. So all that, right? And I said, God, the only thing that was left of the test of Job was the health. God, don't take my health. God, don't take my health, not my health. And I had to go to the hospital. I said, no, not today, Lord. You know what I'm saying? It's not funny, but I'm telling y'all, for y'all chosen ones, right? For y'all sanctified chosen ones. Be careful what y'all say, for y'all get the battles and no reward behind it. Right? I literally went through the test of Job, y'all. Lost my kids, lost my house, lost my car. And I was working, y'all. I was doing my thing. I shouldn't have went through none of that. But the warfare and the workings of these people behind the scene, right? But let me tell you something. They did nothing but sped up what God had for me. It's about perception. God told me perception. Even the day I started getting spiritual attacks, right? I could feel the spiritual attacks. I was already up under spiritual warfare, up under spiritual attack. But I started to feel it, right? The pulling at the head, the pulling at the energy, the draining, the this, the that, right? All of those things, right? And then I started to, God was opening all this going on. Imagine all of this going on. You losing everything, stuff happening, people doing all this crazy stuff to you, following you. On top of all that, right? All them things happening. God was actually opening me up to my gifts at the same time. So I was in a scary, scary phase, right? A very scary phase that I think I did pretty good past. And I passed that stuff with flying colors. And so I already had like certain spiritual gifts, right? And I was used to those spiritual gifts. And then the attacks were so bad that certain gifts was getting taken. And I had to learn how to, what is that called? Feel around, move around in the spirit with, and on the physical, what I once knew to look out for, right? Because I was able to utilize my gifts to be able to look and see certain signs and synchronicities. Those things completely left me, right? Somebody has siphoned those. God allowed it. Because remember, God has to remove the hand off of, right? And I remember sitting on the phone crying to somebody, and I said, I can't see this. I can't see that. I can't. All my gifts is gone that God gave me, right? And I said, I ain't seen it in a while. The things that I normally would see. And so God was showing me that what I thought was normal was not normal, because when you have that for so long, you think that's normal, right? And so as time went on, I started to learn this how serious these gifts was that God gave me, especially when he let them get taken. He did not take them when he allowed it though, right? He has to allow it. It has to be a allowance, right? And so that's one of the things that stuck out with me in the story of Job was God said, "Have you seen my faithful servant Job?" And to Satan, and he said, "Yeah, I seen him." And he said, he wouldn't be like that if you didn't this and you didn't that. And so God ended up removing his protection, his edge of protection for those things to happen. He said you could do everything but kill him, right? And so when he came back, he called a meeting again. The angels came. They said Satan came. He said, "Where have you been, Lucifer?" And he said, "I've been to and fro and running kingdoms and doing this and doing that. What's up? Have you seen my faithful servant Job? I seen him. He was jealous of Job. I seen him. What about him? You see all that stuff you took from him, and look, he's still praising me. He only like that because you allow him to be healthy still." God said, I'll take that protection from around him, but don't kill him. I'll take that. Go ahead. Right? And he went through a series of things, right? And so God ended up tripling everything, right? When he came back out of that, he ended up tripling back. Gave him health, gave him more kids, gave him twice and 3-4 times as much as whatever he had, right? But that is a test, right? The story of Job is an actual test that God chosen one go through. I don't know if all of us go through that, but I'm telling you, some of us do. That is a test, for real. The test of Job. I did not know that until I had to go through that, right? That was a test, right? A lot of that in that Bible. And I do believe that God allowed me to go through a lot of things from scratch, because you remember that I said I was in church when I was younger, all the way up until I was teen, heavy and everything. We're blessed when we come and when we go. I was in the choir. I was on the drill team. I was on the mime team. I was on Bible study. I was in everything you could think of. We did plays inside the church. I was on the basketball team, the cheerleading team. Everything that had to do with church, I was in there, right? Like when we're on a hot summer day, right? I was in there like them butt stuck on the models' butts, right? I was in there, right? I was in there like a wedgie, right? I was in there. But out of all that, I didn't remember anything. And I'm happy that God didn't let me remember none of that stuff. Because when I started to go through certain things, I didn't know which way to turn. I had to start from scratch. I didn't know what the chosen one was. I had to start from scratch. I didn't know what none of that stuff was, right? And I know that God is real because of the things that I endured and how my life goes with the Bible, right? A lot of people that's chosen, your life go hand in hand with the Bible. That's what I end up finding out. That's something I found out on my own, right? I didn't look this up. I didn't come across this, nothing. I found this out through going through it. That Bible is real, right? I do have my theories on what the way it can be delivered and who can deliver it. The word, right? Because they try to say, oh, it's just pastors, but a lot of my healing that I had to go through, and I had to go through some really bad healing, right? On my mom's side, my dad's side, childhood wounding trauma that was embedded on me from other people, right? I came into this world innocent. I came here innocent, and the purest of the purest souls is the ones that go through it, the good ones, the kind ones. We are the ones who really don't have indebted sin, right? And I do believe in past life karma. I do believe in that as well. But a lot of us that are innocent here, the innocent souls is the ones that has to be the sacrificial lamb to go through the worst things, right? And they don't talk about that. Don't nobody talk about that, right? And so I kept saying, God, I didn't do anything. I was trying to figure out, why am I going through this stuff? I'm seeing things that I should never seen. I am enduring things that I should never had endured, right? And at innocent, as a very young, going through these things, right? And a lot of the chosen ones have been through things at very young, very tumultuous, unhumane things since a young child, right? Since a young child. Everybody's story is the same but different, right? It was a little bit different in the upbringing. It was a little bit different, but it all stemmed through, it's all still boiled down to their tumultuous childhoods, right? It starts there. And it's like, instead of me, I'm about to get off here because I'm tired of talking. But I'm going to just say this, y'all, that a lot of us, is going through some stuff right now. We getting through it, right? And I'm gonna go back here to what I said about when God was opening up my gifts too and allowed my gifts to be taken from me, right? I remember sitting on the phone with this individual and I was literally crying, y'all. I was really literally crying and complaining about I couldn't see, right? I couldn't see where's the gifts that God gave me. They've been gone for a while, right? Because the first week you like, okay, second week, now it's a year without them. God, I ain't seen this, I ain't heard this, right? Somebody was cloaking, stealing, putting a veil over, and it was family doing this to me. They was wanting my gifts for themselves to use it for wiki. And I never forget, one of my family members, I was in the car with them, and it was this thing. I got this thing with birds, right? And I remember opening up to this particular, there's a couple of people who was close to me who knew about it, but this particular individual didn't know that I had this, right? And I shared this with them, and I said, like, yeah, because we was driving, and I seen like over maybe about 400 to 500 black birds, right? And I told them this and this is about to happen, and whoop de whoop de whoop, right? And it did end up coming to pass, right? And once that thing came to pass, I picked this family member because I would give them rides. I picked this this particular individual. I ended up picking them up because I was giving them rides. And this person said, "Oh, when I got in the car with them, after they seen that what I said came to pass, I went and picked them up. I ain't thinking nothing of it, right? This was like maybe a couple weeks after the situation." And this individual got in the car with me in my face and said, "Oh, yeah, because I seen them things with the birds. Oh, I got this gift with the birds. And I got this." They literally try to take my gifts for their own, right? I didn't even know people did that type of stuff, right? I didn't even know that people was, y'all, they was doing stuff right in my face. These family members was doing things in my face that was so crazy and so irate. It would make you question your sanity, right? And so just outright dog dirty, right? And this is before I found out this individual was a kitchen witch and was going to get work done and was doing a lot of these nasty things, right? And was doing sacrificial stuff, right? This person was the same person who was calling my son Messiah, right? Trying to name my son Messiah. She kept saying that. And I was very, very close with this person. And after my son passed, this individual disappeared, right? You don't go from being very close to somebody and being around them almost every day or talking to them almost every day to somebody just disappearing, right? This individual was involved in some underhand cut things, some very nasty things towards me. And for what? I don't know. I never did nothing to this person. I never said anything bad about this person, right? Because they was in the background trying to siphon things and get into some very dark, nasty things behind the scene. And so these people know that you're innocent and that you don't know about a lot of the dark side of things, and they do, right? You got to think, I found out that my whole mom's side was kitchen witches, right? That they was in the back doing sacrificial things in the back, doing things. And so they got to pick somebody out of that family to sacrifice, right? And it has to be an innocent. When they all grimy and dirty, they can't sacrifice each other. So, and I wasn't raised around them. I was raised around my dad's side of the family. So when I came around them at a later age, 15, 16 years old, right? And I wanted to know my family and just show them love. They took advantage of that. They was all grimy, dusty, and tainted. Right? They was all low vibrational and they was all witches, right? They was in the back doing a lot of sacrificial things, right? And it was always to the innocent people. They was doing it to innocent people to look like and be like and have, right? And so, this individual started to claim my gifts for themselves right in my face, right in my face, right? And so I'm like, what the hell? And I told her in her face, I said, you need to stop trying to claim stuff for it drive you crazy, right? Because what's normal for me and to me may not be normal for you. So while you invoking and calling on something that don't belong to you, you will mess around and lose your mind, right? Because everybody can't handle being able to see beyond the veil. Everybody. And so I let her know to stop calling on that, right? And so a while passed, right? But the individual was nowhere to be found, seen after my son passed away. I went and knocked on her door. She acted like she wasn't in the house, right? Person was doing some nasty shit. Let's not talk about the fact, right? This was around the time where my uncle was staying with me. My uncle had stayed with me for 2 years. My uncle had just moved out, but before he moved out, my uncle used to sit down and watch like the news app and all this crazy stuff, right? He sit on there for hours watching this different stuff. And he had brought up, while I was talking to her one day on the phone, he had brought up something about people doing that PPP and EBEs and CBC, whatever that was they was doing. with the money, right? When the COVID was going on. And so me and him was talking. I said, shoot, I ain't never touching no stuff like that. You got me bent. I said, because it's going to come back around the bend and bite people in their butts, right? I said, and then people lying about businesses and crazy stuff like that, right? And so she was like, well, you know, people out here hurting for money, they doing it, right? So that right there let me know that she had did something. And so I said, I don't care what nobody doing. So my uncle said that people out here doing it in other people's names or something that came out about. And I said, she was on the phone. And I said, they doing what? And he said, yeah. He said, people doing it in other people's names or something. I said, shoot, but nobody do nothing in my name. I said, because I swear to God, right? I don't like swearing to God. And I hesitated to say that. But I told him, I said, if anybody do something in my name, I said, they A words going to jail. Right. And I said, I don't care if it's family, friends, foes, hoes, a stranger. I said, I'm standing right up there on the thing and testify. Right. I said, you ain't gonna do nothing in my name and get away with it. Right. And I said, and then not even that. How you think you gonna do something in somebody's name? And then I said, if somebody doing something in somebody's name, they that grimy. I said, then that they expect for that person to take the fall for that as well. Right. And I said, I'm not taking the fall for nothing. And you went and lived a good life off of my name. And then you ain't even asked me to even throw me a couple of dollars to share. You ain't share nothing with me or nothing. And you think I'm going to do the crime for something like that? I said, whoever. I said, but nobody do nothing in my name. Right. He was saying we were just agreeing, talking stuff. Right. She was on the phone. But one thing I noticed is that she got really quiet. Right. My whole mom's side of the family, they don't being scammers. Flat out. They're scammers. And so it was ironic that he said that, right? I didn't think nothing of it. Me and him just talking and shooting a bobo. And after that, she said, oh, I got to go. I'll talk to you here in a little bit, right? I still didn't think that. I said, okay, I'll chop it up with you later, right? And so she like, y'all ain't thinking nothing of it, right? After that, she began to back up, but I did not see it right then and there, right? Time went on. My son went on. I had my son. My son ended up passing, y'all. This is the same person I walked in her house. I mean, I used to go over to her house and stay the night with her as well. But this is the same person. So right before I had my son, right, she had already started backing up once I said that, but I hadn't paid attention to it yet. I hadn't paid attention until everything was everything. After my son passed, after God began to reveal things to me, you know, stuff will come back to you. What people actually been in the background doing to you, right? And why people went missing and why no, I mean, after my son passed away, nobody supported me. Nobody came and checked on me. Not one single person, right? I mean, I'm gonna take that back. My dad did come and peek his head on me and just, you know, call me and conversate with me and talk or whatever. And so, but as far as anybody else, nobody else. They was out celebrating. They was going on trips. They was going on cruises. My son's father, before my son's funeral, he was over somewhere across on a boat somewhere. Y'all doing him. So anyways, nobody checked in on me. Nobody made sure I was cool, right? Thank God that they all, see what it was they thought I was the sacrifice, right? And so you got to think that these people went on planning things for a long time. And so when my son passed away, that was the icing on the cake for them to go in and go hard on trying to siphon and take energy. But they didn't know that God was strengthening me and working on me, right? Had they would have peeked their head in and checked in on me, they would have seen I was all right. Y'all, my mail started coming up missing. It's still missing. I don't get barely no mail. I probably get one piece of mail once every 2 weeks, right? Come to find out, one of my cousins' best friends worked at the post office, right? I'm telling these people something wrong with my mail, something going on with my mail to several different family members, right? Just talking before I found out who was all in what, doing what, right? Y'all, they in there getting my mail, trying to stop my mail. Mind y'all, my son passed, my uncle passed. Before that, years before that, my grandmother passed. I believe my grandmother left me something that I never received. As well as let my son end up passing, right? My uncle who stayed with me for 2 years, he ended up moving out. And about a month and a half after he moved out, I had my son. And then a month and a half later, my son passed away. And then I found out a couple months after that, maybe about 4 or 5 months after that, that my uncle ended up passing, right? So it's all these deaths back to back. And so when my uncle passed, my dad ended up calling me. So me and my dad would go into spurts where we didn't talk. It wasn't nothing wrong. We wasn't into it. But, you know, I wouldn't, you know, we doing our own thing, living our own lives. But he would come around and, you know, call me every night. Hey, how you doing? What you doing? I ain't heard from you in a while. And sometimes I would do the same. But when we talk for a long time, for months straight. And then we'll go a long time we don't talk for months, right? And so He called and he said, hey, what you doing? It was late night. And I never forget, I had, at the time, he was my friend. My daughter and her baby daddy, right? Because my daughter was pregnant, was at my house. And I kept telling them I seen somebody in my front room, this spiritual being in my front room, right? And I would hear like this whistling, and there was a certain lighting that would come in my house. I told you I'm very tapped in. And so I kept saying it. So when my dad called me, my dad said, hey, how you doing? What you doing? And whoop, whoop, whoop. And I said, I'm doing all right. You know, I'm doing fine. It was late night. And I said, Dad, I said, we was talking about other things. And I said, Dad, you ain't gonna believe me. I don't care. I said, but it is what it is. You know, he know I'm tapped in. He know how I am. You know, and he's the same way. And I said, there's been a man in my front room walking back and forth, pacing the floor. I've been seeing him in the spirit. And I said, and I've been hearing this whistling. And I said, you know how Granny used to whistle? My granny, I told y'all she was blind and bedridden. And she would whistle, make this whistling sound, this right like that. And I kept hearing that noise. One day I was inside of the store and I heard it. I just kept hearing it. I kept seeing these things, right? And so I said, this is what I said to my dad. I said, Dad, I said, you want to know what's crazy? I said, that man looked like such and such. It's his brother who stayed with me for 2 years. I said, why do he look like him? My dad almost choked, right? And he said, I don't know. I ain't heard from him like that, right? I believe that he already knew, as well as other people knew that he was already gone. I was the last to find out because they wanted to go and collect all of his things, right? Cars and everything, right? And I was the last to know. And so they waited. I believe they had already found out and they waited to tell me. They went to go do their plan and everything. And after they put their plan in action, because everything was happening too fast, right? So it wasn't that it was happening too fast. They found out and then they tried to come and tell me, right? They went and messing with my mail. They didn't want me getting the information, what was ever left to me, to come to me, right? They went into action to steal things. They went into action to take action against me behind the scenes. But you have to understand, for them to be taking these type of actions, there's lawyers and judges, crooked lawyers and crooked judges involved in this as well, right? And crooked law officials and crooked the people who work down there who send out those letters and stuff, right? As well as somebody was working at the post office and they hearing me saying something wrong with my mail, and 2 years later somebody gonna tell me, oh, you know, such and such worked up there, because remember when I told you about my passport and how it took forever for me to get my passport? That person went and pulled my passport for me through the mail, right? Because they worked up there. So every time I came about the mail, they was all involved and they knew exactly what I was talking about, right? And they told on themselves because they forget that it's years later now, and they forgetting that they telling me a story about what's going on. It was something that happened, whatever. You know how you get on stories and you talk about old things, new things, some things, deep blue things, right? And they was telling me a story about something that happened to them, right? Because I said I want to give me a passport. And they went to work, basically. They went and took care of everything they needed to take care of, right? That's why the mail had stopped coming. Let's not talk about the fact that I had a family member, wife, who never worked a day in her life. All of a sudden, she started working at the post office as well, right? And she was on my route. And one day I left work early and I went home because I wasn't feeling well. And I laid on my couch. Normally, I would shut my door, right? Because when I lost my son, I kind of closed myself in a little bit. And I would close all my doors, close my window. I just didn't want to be bothered with the outside world, right? And so, this particular day when I left, I went to shut the door and something said, keep the door open, right? I left my front room door open and locked the screen and lay down on my couch. And I remember the sun beaming in and I seen somebody walk up on my porch. And I went to not get up at first because I seen them open up the mail. And I said, oh, that's the mail people. And something said, get up right now, right? I got up and I seen that it was a family member of mine's wife working there. And I said, hey, how you doing? And she looked as shocked to see me, right? She knew where I stayed at. She knew which one was my house. They was collecting my mail, right? And so as time went on, one of my neighbors, she was innocent at first, right? Until she started getting paid off to do certain things and stuff like that. And she was seeing the things too, right? And I said, girl, my mail missing. And she was like, didn't you say that woman was, hey. She said, didn't you say that woman was such and such and she never worked, right? Because I started sharing things with her because that's how strange the behavior was in everybody. And she said, they don't want you getting whatever was left to you and whatever that is that's supposed to come through the mail. And she was like, I feel like they're doing something with your mail and taking your mail, right? And I was like, so she said, when you see her, ask her where your stuff is and see her response, right? Tell her what's going on. And so the next time I seen her, I said, hey, stop. This is my dog. So I said, hey, how you doing today? I said, my mail has been missing. And she said, oh, I'm going to go look inside of the truck, right? Y'all, she got in that truck and pulled off so fast that truck was on 2 wheels, how fast she pulled off, right? And so the neighbor lady was watching her as well. And so she said, girl, she said, you see how she pulled off? She said she definitely involved. She's definitely involved in whatever this thing is that's going on with your mail and you not getting your mail, right? And so they didn't want me getting my mail. Come to find out, my grandmother, husband, who we called our grandfather, had went down there and switched the mail out of my name and took it and put it over. It took my address, y'all, and switched it and changed it over to his address. He don't know that I know these things. And one day he opened up his mouth and told on himself, right? He didn't know I knew these things. But before I found out it was him, I kept saying, my mail is missing. My mail is not coming. Something's going on with this mail. And one day he started to talk to me about my uncle, and their energy and their behavior was so irate. It forced me to have to pay attention, right? And so one day I went over to my granddad's house. He already knew I was sending some out the mail. But another thing, I told you these people to keep telling on themselves. They kept trying to convince me that my uncle and my grandmother had nothing, right? And so one day I was sitting down. Let me go back. So I brought up my uncle to him, right? What happened to this? What happened to that? Oh, he ain't had nothing. I was going to leave everything alone. But, you know, my family member, they were telling me to go about doing this and doing that. And so I did this and did all that and whatever, right? And one of the things that he said that stood out to me, he told on himself, and he didn't know he told on himself. I had to go down there and get the mail switched because his mail was going to that house and something. And I said he was in the involvement of going down there, switching my mail, and because some of my uncle mail was still coming to my house. And they didn't want them to know that my uncle had stayed with me. So they went down there and took it on themselves. They didn't know he didn't have no more mail coming to me because when he moved, he got to switch to where he was at. But to stop any type of mail from coming to me, any type of proof, any type of anything, they went down there and switched his mail as well and gave them my address to switch it over as well. Said he passed away and presented the paperwork showing that he passed, and they just switched it said his mail was going to whatever address he stayed at, and said, oh, and some of his mail was going there as well. And so that's where the mail started getting messed up at. On top of, they got 2 to 3 people working inside of the post office doing stuff as well, right? So you got my one of the family members' wife working there, and then come to find out later on down the line that they had I find out that another one of my family members' best friend worked inside of there. So on different sides, they got all this different stuff going on, right? And so when I first began to figure out who was doing what was going on, I kept separating everybody, right? So I had a homegirl that I would talk to, and I was like, dang, this person doing this. Dang, this person doing that. Dang, I kept separating everybody, right? But as time went on, God started to reveal to me, like I saying, ain't no way in the hell these people doing this, that person doing this, these people doing that, right on each side of my family. No, they all was doing stuff together, but for different reasons, right? Whatever their reasons was for, it didn't matter because they just need to come together to make me look like, to stop this, to stop that, to do this, to do that, right? Everybody had even got to the point where they had ended up implementing my son's dad in it as well, right? And so, like, one day I went to go inside of my phone to send my granddad some pictures of my uncle, and when my uncle was staying with me, right? They tried to convince me my uncle passed away from diabetes. I don't believe that. And so, I ended up going in my phone to try to find a message that me and my uncle had between each other. And this was like almost a year after he passed. Y'all, I got the same phone number, same everything, right? I used to go in there and look at me and my uncle messages all the times. I missed him, right? Now I would look at my son pictures and stuff. You know, you miss people, you go back and you look over things. And when I went to go in this time, all the messages was going out of the phone. right? And so I'm like, who would go on my phone and delete these messages? And I started to pay attention to other things start coming back to me. And I said, they even got my baby daddy in on this thing. Everybody was wanting the same thing, but for different reasons, right? And that was to stop me, take me down, make me look like, right? And they even had my own child involved in it as well, right? And I tried for a long time. It took me a long time to understand what was going on and to believe what was going on, right? You don't want to believe that your own kids doing nothing to you, your own child doing nothing to you, your own child turned against you for money. Who want to believe that, right? Just like right now, she overstand over my sister's house. It's just a lot of weird things going on at this time and been going on, right? And so whatever it was that they was doing, it was not working. Y'all, they went as far as my granddad and his girl, they went as far as invite me over there like they wanted to talk to me about something or something about something my daughter was doing and jumped on me in the house. And then called 911 to cry wolf. But they didn't know that I had recorded what they was in there doing. Something told me to hit record on them. And so my cousin, after the situation, my cousin called me, right? He was acting like he was going to press all these charges that he purposely did. This is something that all of them came up with, right? It wasn't just one person, wasn't just an incident that happened. This was something that they came up with to make me look like, if we can make her look incompetent, if we can have her go to jail, then while she's in jail, we're going to utilize this person to call her to be able to sign over stuff so she can get out of jail, right? If she in jail then and we tell her that this check is going to expire, then she'll be forced to sign her name on this check, right? And then we'll get the money and we'll go run off in the sunset with the money. Y'all, they was coming up with all type of stuff, and I figured this thing out by their behavior. Their behavior was so out of this world. Their tactics was so out of this world. Their movement and behavior was so irate and so out of this world that it forced me to have to pay attention. If they would have just went on with their life and never messed with me and still was doing what they had did, I wouldn't even have paid attention. I would never knew what was going on. But the behavior was so crazy, right? And let's not forget that when I say that there's bigger entities in this thing, right?